Okay, so if we have to try and solve by completing the square, first thing to remember is it's x squared plus 6x. We halve the middle term and square it, so it's a half of 6 and square it. And if I'm going to add that, I need to subtract it to keep equal, and then I've just got my minus 7. So this term here is the perfect square. So we get x plus 3 all squared, a half the middle term. And then we get minus 9 minus 7, which is minus 16, and that's equal to 0. So from there we can solve by taking the 16 over, and we take the square root of both sides, so x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus 4. So then x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 4. So x is equal to 1 and negative 7. Now we could have got those answers by factorising here. We could have written it x plus 7, x minus 1, and we get equal to 0. But we can't always factorise our quadratics. So completing the square is an alternative to factorising and or using the quadratic formula. So probably if we've got a coefficient that we can't reduce nicely, I would probably go to a quadratic formula to solve. But we've been asked to complete the square. So the first step, 2 comes out the front. X squared minus 3 on 2x minus a half equals 0. So now we treat that quadratic expression as we did the previous one. Got to be careful. So it's x squared minus 3 on 2x. We halve 3 on 2, which means we increase the denominator by 2. So it's plus 3 on 4 squared minus 3 on 4 squared minus a half. Okay, so those first 3 terms here, that's my perfect square. So that's x minus 3 on 4, a half of it, all squared. Don't forget we've got the 2 out the front of everything. Minus 9 on 16, minus a half, which I'm going to put as 8 on 16. We're going to do that so that when we add and subtract our fractions, we've got the same denominator. So I've got 2 out the front of x minus 3 on 4 all squared minus 17 on 16 equal to 0. Now, since we're just solving here, I can divide both sides by 2 and they cancel. Okay, if I actually had to factorise, I'd multiply that 2 through after I finished using a difference of squares. So now x minus 3 on 4 all squared is equal to 17 on 16. I'm going to take a square root of both sides. So I get plus or minus the square root of 17 over 4. So then x is equal to 3 on 4 plus or minus root 17 on 4. So I'll get x is equal to, we'll take a quarter out the front, 3 plus or minus square root of 17. So there's my solutions. There's solutions I couldn't have got by factorising. I could have got by using the quadratic formula, but completing the squared, if you become really proficient at it, is sometimes just as easy.